another victorious series opener for the Phillies. And with that, we welcome you into the PHLY Philly Show presented by Bet365. You can download the Bet365 app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Bryson Stott had a big game Thursday night to help boost the offense, and they got a much-needed win to have 5 straight wins in a row to start off the Miami Marlins series. A great way to kick off this 4-game series. Happy Friday. It's always a better Friday when we're talking about winning. We will recap and put some final notes on last night's game. Obviously, we haven't had a chance to talk about it since you and Jamie had post-game yesterday. But also looking ahead to the rest of the weekend, we'll get into pitching matchups. We'll go down on the farm to talk through some of the prospects that have been making some waves down in the Phillies pipeline. But most importantly, TGIF, we had the kickoff of the NFL season yesterday, and it was a toe away from being an overtime game. We've got college football. We've got the Eagles kicking off tonight. We've got the Phillies winning games. We've got the Union winning games. Tyler, Penn State is Penn Stating.
Listen, if they lose to Bowling Green tomorrow, we got way bigger problems.
This is a great time. I mean, let's just all sit and bask in this moment right now where we are happy, we are calm. We have no idea what the Eagles are going to do to us later today with that game against the Packers. It is also my birthday this weekend. Let's just bask in this moment of bliss.
We're in a great spot. The Sixers haven't ruined our lives yet.
Yes. It's like the calm before the storm.
It happens every year, so until we get there, everything's good right now.
All right, guys, we are in the calm before the storm. Happy Friday, Philly 007, Mickey, Chris, everybody in the chat on Twitter, on YouTube, listening on Roku, listening back on podcast platforms. Let's just start with last night, putting a bow on the game, because it was great to see Bryson Stott step up. Now, what I've been enjoying about the Phillies is it feels like we're in a your turn, you got it, who's next type of a vibe right now. It was Kyle Schwarber earlier this week with the 3 home run game and back-to-back leadoff home runs against Toronto. Now, as we switch to a new series and turn the page, Bryson Stott's like, Kyle, I got it now. It's my turn. Let me step up and help us win this game. And Bryson Stott is one of the guys we've also been talking about, wanting to see more from offensively. Well, over his last 7 games, he's been batting around 273 with a 1.104 OPS. He's been great in the month of September, actually, been much better, has turned a page. And when you look at the production that we've seen from Bryson Stott so far in September, he's already kicked it off. He's got a pair of doubles. He's got a home run. He's got 4 hits on the month in his 4 games and 17 at-bats with a 235, 278, 520 split and a .807 OPS. August, 226, 283, 369. Sorry, that's an 8. And a 652 OPS. We've already seen Bryson Stott jump out with the change of the month to have a better month. And yesterday was exactly that. He got the single, he got the home run, he got the RBI. He was solid. And you need guys that are going to be able to help you produce, especially when you have Bryce Harper, who we'll get into the injury updates. You have injuries in general. So it's been encouraging to see the moments. Bryson Stott stepping up was one of those moments.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that Jamie and I talked about this last night too. He's one of those guys who can really be a bottom half of the lineup tone setter for this team, because he allows you to slot guys in to spots naturally. That means you're never going to have, because at some point the Phillies will have to have back-to-back right-handed hitters in their lineup. But if you can eliminate, having to go 3 in a row because Bryson Stott's not playing well, or, whatever the case may be, at some point you're either going to go Alec Bohm to JT Realmuto, or Alec Bohm to Nick Castellanos, or JT to Castellanos, whatever the case may be. You are going to have 2 righties in a row at some point. But when Bryson Stott is swinging a good bat, he breaks that monotony up of allowing teams to set up their bullpens in such a way, especially late in a game, where you may turn to a righty to get those, 2 of those 3 guys, like we said, whether it's JT and Castellanos or whatever the configuration of the lineup might be. But if you're able to insert Bryson Stott into a specific spot in the lineup to separate 2 righties, that helps out tremendously. Brandon Marsh does the same thing for the Phillies lineup down towards the bottom. But when Bryson Stott is rolling, it gives you a lefty who, again, splits up the righties. It gives you somebody who can wreak havoc on the bases. If Bryson Stott has a year like he did last year, if he had one this year, a year like he did last year, Bryson Stott probably has 40 stolen bases by now. So what he allows you to do is kind of set a lineup in a way where you're not worried about getting beat, especially late in games, by right-handed dominant relievers.
Yeah. And I know, to your point, it is important for the Phillies to have throughout the course of their lineup guys sprinkled in that just add something special, whether it's stealing bases, just getting hits, something that you can add to offensively. I know Philly 007, you're asking about Ranger. We will get to Ranger Suarez and the pitching. We're going to stick with the Rangers, not a negative, but the more positives right now in terms of what we did see from the offense. This offense has been struggling. They haven't been, as much as we've seen in terms of their offensive prowess in the first half of the season. And part of that is it's been taking some guys some time to kind of get through a bit of a rut. Nick Castellanos has been the one that we've seen since May that has been the most consistent. We've seen the breakthrough of Kyle Schwarber. Well, September not only brought Bryson Stott, but also brought Brandon Marsh. And it's great you mentioned him, Tyler, because you read my mind. Brandon Marsh has been another one that's been a game changer for the Phillies. And why? Because since Brandon Marsh went 2 for 4 with a double back on August 23rd in Kansas City, after going 5 for 39, he then went 2 for 4 against Kansas City on August 23rd. The Phillies haven't lost the series since. Ever since Brandon Marsh has gotten going, they have been much better in winning games, but also winning series. And we talked about how electric Brandon Marsh was to start off the season. He, of course, hit a slump. Then he was one that we were like, righties, lefties, doesn't matter. Brandon Marsh isn't hitting anyone. Well, now Brandon Marsh is also working out of it, much like Bryson Stott. Since September, he's been much better. He's got 5 hits, 6 total bases, a double, 4 walks, just 2 strikeouts in September, slashing 417, 588, 500, compared to August, where he was slashing 244, 326, 423. Obviously, much bigger sample size in August, but in August, he was striking out a lot. In one stretch, he struck out 10 times in 29 plate appearances in the course of like 3 or 4 games. Brandon Marsh has had a major swing already in September. We always talk about it. Sometimes a change of the calendar is what players need to kind of reset, start fresh. He's getting more hits. He's getting way less strikeouts. Between July 12th and August 22nd, 41 strikeouts and 102 plate appearances. And a lot of other things dropped in terms of his numbers. So it's good because as you talk about the lineup, the Phillies need those guys that can be sprinkled in. And especially at the bottom of the lineup, you're getting outfield production from Brandon Marsh. You're getting a guy that's one of your later hitters that's going to give you something, just something except for a strikeout. And we're slowly seeing the offense creeping back to get more depth, more consistency throughout for the Phillies.
Yeah, I think multiple things can be true at once with Brandon Marsh, because the moment that you praise a guy that you bashed earlier in the season, people go, oh, now you want to say nice things. You trashed the guy earlier in the year. There was a stretch where Brandon Marsh was effectively an unplayable baseball player. Also true, Brandon Marsh's last, 2 weeks or so have been much improved, much better offensive productivity from him. The strikeout rate, as you mentioned, has gone down. He was at 41% over that stretch. He's still at 38% for his season. But right now he is not marred in like a, this guy can't play stretch anymore. He is, he's done a really good job of hitting off of right-handed pitching. Does the left-handed pitching ever come through? I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. But yesterday, having Brandon Marsh and Bryson Stott put together good plate appearances was, I think, critical to the team's success, not just because Bryson Stott drove 2 runs in early in the game, but Adam Oller was really tough on the Phillies' right-handed hitters early in the game, partially because his slider was really good in the first couple of innings. Well, slurve or whatever you want to call it, sweeper, slurve, slider, whatever. His frisbee pitch looked like a frisbee up there, was really good. But more importantly, one thing that I noticed from him was he was lined up so far on the third base side of the rubber last night that especially in the stretch, that when he comes set and and his left shoulder was tucked. It's so hard for right-handed hitters to pick that up. Castellanos' first at bat was dreadful, and it almost wasn't Castellanos' fault because of how far over on the rubber and how much Aller was able to hide the ball from the right-handed hitters. There's no surprise that Aller has not given up a home run to right-handed hitters this season. All of the homers he's allowed have come to lefties. The guy has good stuff. His command wasn't particularly sharp last night. He also didn't get any help from the umpire. I thought the umpire squeezed him multiple times last night. I almost felt bad for the guy. But to get back to the original point, the two lefties at the bottom of the lineup, Brandon Marsh and Bryson Stott, having good plate appearances against a guy who, kept them in check for the most part through the first 4 innings was really, really encouraging, especially when some of your right-handed hitters really didn't have a chance against the guy early. Johan Rojas struggled. Nick Castellanos struggled in his plate appearances early. And that's kind of expected. Like I said, he was really stifling to some of the right-handed hitters last night.
Yeah. And it's a great point that you bring up around just being able to add something, because as Mickey's mentioning in the chat, it is something to say about this team's makeup that a different player can step up. And when you have a pitcher that's giving your teammates trouble, be the guy that breaks through, be the guy that can get a hit. It doesn't, and we saw from, Nick Castellanos walk off to Bryson Stott, it can be a single. It can be that you're drawing a walk and you're loading the bases, like we saw Cody Clemens do. It could just something to keep the inning going, because the Phillies have also been struggling with runners in scoring position, and that has been an area that's been extremely frustrating to see. It was like double digits against Toronto that they left guys stranded, and we saw it again last night where they did have a stretch where they just were not able to drive runners home. And when you have that type of a frustrating point, because you get situations, as you mentioned with Johan Rojas, for example, you look at the time he grounded into the double play, 3rd inning or so, and you have an opportunity. Cody Clemens just gets the walk. You already have JT on, Marsh is on, Clemens is now on, and here comes Yoro with a double play that he grounds into a double play, and that's it. Versus on the other side, when the Phillies are able to, with Bryson Stott, for example, you drive a runner home. So through the first 4, the Phillies had left 5 runners on base, 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. But then we saw that, change as the game progressed, the 4th, the 5th inning, that the offense finally got clicking. It's just, you have to find a way to mix up the versatility of not only your personnel, which I like from the Phillies. It's not just 1 or 2 guys. You have every day another guy stepping up, but also you have to be able to mix up how you are getting after pitchers, getting them deep in the pitch counts, scoring runs. And we are getting back to not only the next player up mentality of a different guy leading this team, but we are slowly also seeing the offense getting back to being able to play in a different ways. The bunting still is a struggle. Oh my Lord. But we are getting more small ball in terms of some singles, them just spraying the ball in the pocket versus being home run or bust. So even that is something I've been kind of paying attention to. It's not only just about keeping guys, how are you adjusting with runners in scoring position, but what are you giving at the plate? We don't need it to always be this pretty, home run or this highlight play. We just need it to be a play that's going to help keep the inning going instead of you stranding your teammates. So that's also been something that you see the changes slowly working through, where the offense, I don't feel like is chasing as many pitches, is forcing it. I think they're staying a lot more disciplined at the plate to be able to just read the pitch and adjust accordingly, versus trying to make this like major game-saving, game-changing play every time they're up at bat.
It's funny. 2 things that drive me absolutely nuts in Major League Baseball. You mentioned one of them. Professional hitters not being able to bunt is something that drives me crazy. The other one, especially with relievers, is not throwing strikes at the Major League level. Those 2 things drive me crazy, and we saw them both over the last 2 days. Like, Toronto's bullpen in that 2-game series was dreadfully bad.
We'll take it, but they were.
Of course. Yeah. Like, you end up getting, the come from behind victory on Tuesday, and on Wednesday, they weren't very good either. They were walking guys all over the place. But it's funny, Renee, you brought up, the Johan Rojas ground into a double play after Aller walks back-to-back hitters. Does it feel to you like the Phillies are hitting into a ton of double plays lately?
Unfortunately, I do feel like they're getting back to that. That was one of
Because
those things that they were like a walking double play, and
well,
not in a good way, on the wrong side of the double play. But Tyler, I do feel like that was one of the areas earlier in the season that we were mad and annoyed about, because as well as the offense was doing, we saw a number of times that guys were hitting into double plays. So if that's the trade-off,
so the reason I ask you is
ugh,
it feels to me like there's been a lot over the last, like,
guys.
probably more so in the stretch where they were struggling than now, but it still feels like there are a lot as of late. Um, do you know where the Phillies rank in grounding into double plays this year as an offense?
They are top 5.
They are dead smack in the middle. They're 15th. They've hit into 97 double plays this year. There are 11 teams that have hit over 100 double plays. The New York Yankees lead the league with 121. The Padres are right behind it, 120. It feels like it's a lot more than it actually is.
Yeah, it does actually. It's interesting you say that, because I thought they would have been one of the worst teams. I mean, they're still bad being in the middle of the pack. We'd rather you be one of the best teams at it that has that happen a minimal amount of times, but it is interesting. It feels like it happens way more than we're noticing. I know, Mickey, you're bringing up Yoro and how on sports radio they were talking about he's had extra base hits all year. Yoro has actually been offensively, I feel like, exactly what you need from him. We were not expecting him, and this is where it also comes into play for everybody being able to play their role and being able to add where needed. And I think for Johan Rojas, his big aspect that he adds is on the defensive side. The ability to be a center fielder that can read the ball, get there so quick, explosive first step, clean defensive plays. And for him to be currently, I mean, you look at this season right now, he's got 7 doubles, a triple. He's got 3 home runs, 28 RBIs, but his splits are 237, 276, 298 with a .574 OPS. I think Johan Rojas offensively, I'm not gonna drag him and be mad about how he's performing, because he's actually a guy that's performing exactly as you expected. He's one of your weaker hitters. He's bottom of the lineup. He's not someone that's going to come out and get you, double-digit home runs on a season. And even the fact he's got 28 RBIs so far could be something that's like you say, hey, that's not bad. But his splits as a whole are manageable. It's the other guys that I actually expect more from, especially top of the lineup. Bryce, Trey, Kyle. Johan, I expect him to be a bench piece, a guy that can come in and give you whether it's as a late pinch hitter or pinch runner. He's a guy that just kind of adds in, but he's not and should not be the one that's making or breaking, the success of this team once we start talking playoffs.
No, but I think ebbs and flows of the season, if you balance everything out for Johan Rojas, he's been exactly where we expected, just short of 240 average. The OBP is a little bit lower than I expected. I was kind of hoping it to be a little bit closer to 290 than it is to 276. But he had a really nice stretch after the All-Star break of where he looked like he was swinging the bat a lot better. He was squaring up some more. He was squaring up the ball more. His contact and his exit velo was rising. He was driving the ball down the third base line, which was nice to see, which means he was jumping on pitches and pulling them down the left field line, especially fastballs. He wasn't being, just absolutely overmatched with fastballs up in the zone. And so he had a really nice stretch over that span. Now, the only problem is last night was his first hit since August 25th. He's 1 for his last 14. He's 5 for his last 29. He's hitting 172 over the last 15 games. But if you stretch it to 30, he's hitting 261. So like that ebbs and flows thing it's kind of where I expected. Like if you stretch it out for the course of the season, his next at bat will be his 300th of the year. He's hitting 237, kind of exactly where I expected him to be. Come playoff time, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Johan Rojas, because the defense is unmatched. Your defense is better when you have Johan Rojas in center and Brandon Marsh in left than when you do have Brandon Marsh in center and Austin Hayes in left or Weston Wilson in left. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Johan Rojas at the bottom of the lineup, and if he does play on a semi-consistent basis in the playoffs. But again, if if you're worrying about offensive productivity, which I'm not currently because this team seems to be rolling in the right direction, the fingers would not get pointed at Johan Rojas first. There would be a plethora of players that would get, productivity complaints before you got to Johan Rojas. Good thing is they're all trending in the right direction for the most part.
Yeah, and to your point, and I know Seth F is saying in the chat as well, is Johan Rojas is platooning, and that's not easy. Witt definitely struggled with it. A lot of players struggle with that. I do feel like, to be honest, when you look at those numbers, as you mentioned, for Yoro as of recent, that being his first hit, we're not seeing Johan as much playing. He's not starting as much. He's had a lot more of an inconsistent time in the lineup, and even that's something that is going to affect his game because he's not getting at-bats every day. He's again, we've seen him as a pinch hitter. We've seen him come in late just as a bench piece. He's not starting as much especially prior to Austin Hayes' injury. He wasn't starting as much. But even with that, it's been a lot more Brandon Marsh at center field. And Johan gives you better center field play. I'm not going to drag him. I think it's easy. And what I noticed, my last thing for Yoro is when he makes a bad play, when he grounds into a double play like yesterday or makes a bad play, we notice that way more than we notice the little things by him that he does well offensively. Like, I don't hear people talking as much when Johan gets a hit or bunts or whatever it may be. He's an easy guy to point to as an area of complaint because the offense is not what we want right now. They're getting better, but they're not what we want right now. So it's easy almost to point the finger at somebody like Johan Rojas. He's not the guy that's supposed to be carrying this offense. He's not even the guy that's supposed to be the consistent piece to help you score runs. He's supposed to be a guy that is bench piece, center fielder, gives you enough at bats that allows you to keep the inning alive. So I'm not going to point the finger at him. I do, his numbers aren't great offensively, but we've never talked about his numbers being his strength offensively. It's been the center field play.
Yeah, you want him to be a disruptor more than like a producer. And what I mean by that is he is a part-time player who is closing in on 25 stolen bases this year. He is a disruptor on the base paths. Ground balls to the left side are not definitive outs when he is running the bases. He has the ability to take two. He has the ability to score from second, sometimes the ability to score from first on balls, hitting the gap or down the line. You want him to be a disruptor and play good defense. And as long as he is not getting entirely overwhelmed offensively, you've got something you can work with.
Yeah, you can work with that. He's definitely making progress. We have seen him have times, especially early in the season, he looked lost and out of place. But you know what? With Johan, he's improving steadily. And you know where you guys can make sure that you are always ready in the moment and constantly improving to never be ordinary? That's with our friends over at Bet365. Because whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And with Bet365, as we are nearing the end of the regular season for baseball, we're into 22 games left, 23 for some teams. It's never ordinary at Bet365, and you can make sure to take advantage of Big League Tuesdays. You can also have a chance on Tuesday's Major League Baseball games to place qualifying parlay bets that total $20 or more on Tuesday's MLB games. Get up to $25 in bonus bets. Terms and conditions, of course, apply. But download the app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Also, with it being NFL season officially, guys, football is here. Yesterday was a crazy way to kick off the NFL season, and you also can take advantage of their same-game parlays, their Sunday offers that they have where you place a qualifying parlay bet totaling $20 or more on Sunday's NFL games. You get up to $25 in bonus bets. Again, terms and conditions do apply. They've got everything you need, whether it's Thursday night football, Sunday night football. We're looking at Major League Baseball. Maybe as we're getting closer and closer to the NBA and college basketball season, they've got some great deals for you as well. So right now, as a new customer, you can get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Use the code PHLY365 to sign up, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $200 in bonus bets. You place a bet for $5, you get $200 in bonus bets. The math is mathing. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and much more with our friends over at Bet365. So again, download the Bet365 app. Use that code PHLY365 when you sign up to get that $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Know that you've got to be 21 or older and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, they can call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
Yeah, the math does be mathing on that one. So if you get some extra cash this weekend with our friends over at Bet365 and you're looking to do some work on your house, especially with your carpet and flooring, Empire Today is your one-stop shop for everything that you need. Because with Empire Today, you get shop at home convenience, the right products you need. You're going to get quick and professional installation and a price match guarantee, which means if you find something somewhere else for a different price, maybe for a little bit cheaper, they're going to help you out with that as well. It is the best place to get new flooring. You might have other companies that are, you want to call them a copycat company. They have maybe a same type of model that Empire Today is, but what they can't beat is Empire Today's quality, service, speed, and just the craftsmanship in which Empire works on your floors and your carpets. Empire's not going to promise you the lowest price, because anyone who does that is putting the flooring in your home. They're more worried about getting into your home to make a sale than they are about putting good quality flooring and carpeting in your house. But again, what they will promise you is quality, service, speed, professionalism, everything you want when you're putting a major renovation in your home. Listen, carpets and flooring are in your house for a really, really long time, right? You're adding something to your home that you want to pop, that you want to look great, that you want to stick out. And maybe if you're down the line, you're going to sell your house, you want to use that as a selling point for your home. And with Empire Today, they are going to promise you some great work, quality, service, speed, professionalism, all of that and more, because Empire Today is one of the premier flooring and carpeting companies in the business. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. And if you do that, all listeners of this show will receive $350 off when you use the promo code PHLY. So you take your winnings from Bet365. You get $350 off on a discount if you use the promo code PHLY with our friends at Empire Today. And hey, look, you're on the way to getting new carpeting and flooring in your home with no money out of your pocket, in that sense, where you've won some money, you get a discount. It looks great for you and for your home. Restrictions do apply. See empiretoday.com/PHLY for more details. Empire Today, can't recommend them enough if you're going to get some homework done on your flooring, your carpeting, because it's a long-term investment for you and your home.
It is. It is. Well, I know as we're talking about the wins that you can have personally, I know in the chat, BC is giving some predictions for the NFL games, starting with the Eagles tonight, having them winning over the Packers, and his Rams winning over the Lions. I also see some talk about runners in scoring position, as well as the offense. Listen, we could talk about the offense and runners.
I think they're actually, I understand they're frustrating at times because it does seem like it's big spots, but John Peace brings it up. Like, they're within the top 10 of most statistical categories with runners in scoring position. Now, Alec Boehm is a huge producer of those numbers. He's been incredible all year with runners in scoring position, but the team as a whole has 319 hits with runners in scoring position. That's third in Major League Baseball. They have 43 home runs with runners in scoring position, seventh across Major League Baseball. Their batting average, 266. That's eighth across Major League Baseball. I know at times it can be frustrating, and it's an easy thing to pinpoint especially when it's a turning point in a game. We've seen that be the case before, where runners in scoring position was almost a direct result of this team not winning games. But over the course of the totality of the season, they've actually been a little bit better than advertised.
Absolutely. And I think, again, if you're looking at just one game, have they had games where they left a lot of men stranded? Yes. Have they had games where it's been frustrating with runners in scoring position? Yes. But when you look at the season, much like we talked about Yoro, when you look at the entire season, it actually has been one of their strengths. And it starts with Alec Boehm, but we've seen a number of guys producing. Nick Castellanos, another one. We've seen Kyle Schwarber, coming in to lead things off after we have the bottom of the batting order go through, get on base, and then Kyle Schwarber drives somebody home. So it's not as bad. Take a step back for everything. Offensively, they haven't been scoring as many runs as they were, especially in the hot stretch prior to the All-Star break, but they are getting back. And you know who else is getting back? As we're talking through the offense here on PHLY Phillies presented by Bet365. Let's switch and talk about the pitching. Because Ranger Suarez yesterday, I know, Tyler, you and Jamie had a chance to recap it in our post-game show last night. Shout out to everybody that tuned in. But the pitching has been one of those areas that we've talked about. an area that needs to get fixed. This is one you can directly correlate to the Phillies' success because, yet again, as we've been saying many times, just to reiterate, when the starting pitcher is able to pitch 7 or more innings, the Phillies have been winning games. 32 straight games they've won. They are 32-1 on the season. They did lose the opening weekend, of course, when they went further into the game. But since that weekend against the Braves, they've been 32-0 when their starting pitcher goes 7+. Ranger Suarez did not get to 7 last night, but Ranger Suarez did give you 5 shutout innings, 3 hits, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. His 12th win of the season. He threw 82 pitches. And I know the velocity is something that people are pointing to, questioning. But I think as we saw the velocity drop, like his sinker was around 87 miles per hour to start off the game, down from his usual average around 91 miles per hour. Of the 39 sinkers and 4-seamers he threw, 26 were below 90 miles per hour last night. So yes, his velocity was lower against the Marlins. But we also know that Ranger Suarez, as he's working back from being on the IL, as Rob Thompson has mentioned, they want to continue to ramp him up, get him increasing his innings, but at a slow rate. So I actually don't mind him having a lower velocity if it allows him to stretch 5 shutout innings and get through 82 pitches and continue to increase his pitch count. Because you do want to get Ranger Suarez back to being able to pitch 7 innings, 6, 7 innings consistently with high velocity. But you can't rush him back. Let's not forget, he's still working back. He's just had a couple of starts now coming off the IL. And I do think each outing we're going to see him progress. But I think much like we keep talking about with Bryce Harper needing to take it slow, so does Ranger Suarez. He's back. He's working back. But we don't need him to rush out there and try to throw high velocity every pitch. And now he's overextending himself too quickly. So I'm not hitting the panic button on Ranger Suarez. I actually like the fact he had to drop the velo on his pitches, but was still able to get 5 shutout innings through that with 3 hits and 2 walks in that. That's fantastic. And that's honestly an encouraging bright spot to help him get back to what we need him as that pre-All-Star break Ranger Suarez.
Yeah, I think the theme of my talking points today seems to be multiple things can be true at once, right? Because I don't like the fact that his velocity dipped. I do, however, like the fact that he powered through it and pitched. We've talked about this plenty. Ranger Suarez is a pitcher. And
yeah,
let me expound, because if you just cut Ranger Suarez as a pitcher, people would go, yeah,
like,
well, thanks.
Oh my gosh.
Thanks, Tyler. That's how that works. Ranger Suarez is a pitcher in the sense that he is not a thrower. And there's a lot of throwers in the league. There's probably more throwers than ever in Major League Baseball. He is a pitcher's pitcher, where he is about location, command, pitch variance, up and down, in and out, getting hitters off their onto their front foot. He is about changing speeds, throwing strikes, working backwards. All of these things are so important for the success of really any pitcher. You can get away with it when you're Ben Joyce and you're breaking the record for hardest thrown fastball in Major League history. But you don't get away with it. I don't even think you get away with it until you start to get to like 97, 98, 99. 94 to 96 doesn't really even get away with it anymore. Ranger Suarez is the guy that when JT Realmuto sets his glove up, you saw it last night with the at-bat with Christian Pache, set his glove up and in, on his hands, set the glove up, bang, hit the spot. I don't think JT moved his hand for the entirety of the pitch. Don't think he moved his glove. That's the kind of guy that Ranger Suarez is. And when he's on his best, regardless of his velocity, you don't want it down at 86. But I think a couple miles an hour when all of those other factors are on, isn't detrimental to Ranger Suarez the way that it might be to a thrower, because he knows how to pitch. He knows how to work out of spots. He had an offense yesterday. It's not a very good offense in the Marlins, right? Like Xavier Edwards is really, really good at the top of the lineup. Jake Berger always provides some pop, but they're not a great team. Kyle Stowers is really struggling with strikeouts. Colin Norby is going to be a good player, but I don't think he's quite there just yet. It's a young, inexperienced baseball team and a young, inexperienced offense. But Ranger was able to take advantage of that yesterday. I thought his curveball was his best pitch. He didn't throw it a ton, but he threw it well, threw it in good spots. Was able to bury hitters off their back foot, or up at the hands or down and away to the right-handed hitters with the changeup because he was able to maintain a pitcher's philosophy.
Yeah, I think the biggest key right now is we have to stop. I hate to say this. I think because of the expectations of this team, the talent of this team, the way this season has gone, every game we're looking at it as, oh no, if you're doing this, they're not going to win the World Series. The two don't correlate directly. Yes, you can be nervous because obviously we want them to be trending in the right direction. But right now, this team, this is their time. They have set themselves up. The magic number is now like 15. They've set themselves up to be in a really good place. They've got the NL East is theirs to win, as the Braves and Mets are battling for that last wild card spot, not even the NL East at this point. It's now a matter of locking in a top 2 spot in the National League. Obviously, we know that. So you want to keep winning games. Obviously, we also know that. But on the other side, this is also that time to kind of like fine tune things heading into the playoffs to make sure when we cross into Red October, the Phillies are clicking on all cylinders. And for Ranger Suarez, he's one of those pieces you can't look at just one game in isolation. Look at how he's returned and how he looked last night. So yesterday was the first time that Ranger Suarez was able to throw over 80 pitches. We know that Rob Thompson's been saying he wants to increase the pitch count. Well, in his first couple of games back, when he got around 75 pitches, we started to see Ranger Suarez struggle and unable to get strikes, unable to get out of innings. So yesterday you get an opportunity. His ERA drops back under 3, so he's now at a 2.9 ERA, 2.90 ERA. He also did get his velocity up by the last inning. So although he started off throwing that 86-mile-per-hour sinker, as the game progressed, his velocity also started to pick up. And by his final inning, the 5th inning, he was throwing up around 90 miles per hour. So you did at least see him get opportunities to progressively get better through the game versus the reverse that we've seen previously, where he starts off great, the velo is there, and now because he's not ready to pitch deeper into, that 80 pitch area, he now struggles. So I'd rather him slow walk it. It does help. It's the Marlins, to be honest. Their offense is not great. We know that. So there's even less pressure in that sense. Go out there, ease in, throw less velocity, pick up your velocity as the game goes on. But the goal, I think, for him yesterday was to get to over 80 pitches. And he did that with 82. And not to mention, on top of that, for Ranger Suarez, you set your team up. 5 shutout innings. Oh, yeah. And then it was the 6th inning that we saw, the breakout of the offense with a 4-run 6th inning. So not only did he do his job, I think it's like almost nitpicking. Would we love the velocity to be higher? Absolutely. But he did enough. 5 shutout innings is enough. Doesn't matter how it got there. You got 5 shutout innings. You got to over 80 pitches, and you allowed your team to now have a breakout 6th inning that gave the offense a chance to, score 4 runs and take the lead. So I do agree. We're going to keep an eye on his velocity without a doubt. But ultimately, as long as he's continuing to ramp up his pitch count, it's got to be everything together. The velocity, the pitch count, his strikes, how is he getting in and out of innings? And overall, is he getting back to being his goal of being that 7-inning type of starting pitcher?
Yeah, I think that, I would say this. If you go back to his start last night and his previous start against Atlanta, I thought, you may look at the velocity, you may look at the 4 strikeouts to begin the game against Atlanta. He was better last night than he was against Atlanta by a lot. And I understand, the velo is down. And again, I'm not going to say it's nothing. I think it is something. I can't just, put my blinders on and say, well, he pitched well for 5 innings. That's enough for me. It does mean something. But, when you give your team a really legitimate opportunity to win, you go out there, you're calm, cool, collected, the way that he always is. What did he give up? 3 base hits in 5 innings, 3 hits and a walk or something along those lines.
2 walks.
And the 82 pitch thing is important. You could tell a couple starts ago. I think the start prior to Atlanta was for him to get to about 80. And you could see, and it's the reason Rob Thompson didn't run him back out for the 6th inning, his first start, even though he was pitching well. I think he was at like 72 or 74 pitches. He was cooked. You could just tell he pitched really well. And, you tip of the cap for a guy for coming back out, making his first start in a couple of weeks coming off the IL. but you could tell that he just didn't have the same stuff in the fifth that he did through the first four. So if a walk back in velocity is, if it's calculated, that's one thing. If this is a sign of something worse, then we have to have a conversation about it. But for two of his last three starts since coming off the IL, he's pitched well. He's given you 5 really, really good innings. And the thing with him is, come playoff time, he's a Swiss Army knife. He becomes a weapon for you. So maybe he is only pitching 5 innings in game 3 because you're using him in game 6 out of the bullpen or game 5 out of the bullpen. It's not a nothing for the velo to drop, but I think it's less concerning 24 hours later than it was when it immediately was happening.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest thing is like, am I watching these things closely to see how they're progressing? Yes. I want to see how Ranger Suarez continues to progress with his command, his velocity, how many innings he's pitching. But I'm not going to overreact if they're in a place now of we're watching them like live in games, working to get back, working to progress, to get better. And so it's bigger picture. Are things moving in the right direction? And I think you can pinpoint, as you mentioned with Ranger, each start we're seeing him getting back to being what we expect from Ranger as one of the top pitchers in the league, honestly. So it's been great to see. And I think that the future is bright for the Phillies because you are getting these areas that are slowly working themselves out. And you know what? If it's bright and you want to handle some of the shade, you can do it with our friends over at Shady Rays, because at Shady Rays, they provide you with quality shades built to last. And our friends at Shady Rays have you covered. They've got the premium polarized shades that will not break the bank. And also, as an independent sunglasses company, they offer you a world-class product. It's rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people that enjoy Shady Rays. And what I like about Shady Rays, their durable frames, the crystal clear optics, and the fact that they have hundreds of options to choose from. So whatever your team is, your swag, your style, whatever you're looking to match with, Shady Rays has a pair of sunglasses for you. All different styles, different colors, different shapes in their shades that you can have. And so I always say, like, everyone's face fits a different type of sunglasses. Like mine, I can't have too big because I have a small face, but I don't want to have like too narrow. Like some people prefer the big shades. Some people prefer the more sleek, smaller shades. I prefer somewhere in the middle. Don't worry, with Shady Rays, with their hundreds of options, you will find the pair that works for your style, but also your handsome and beautiful face. And with Shady Rays, they have the 5-star ratings by over 300,000 people because they also have great customer service. So they have had the opportunity to provide their customers a chance. If their shades break, if they want to exchange them, whatever it may be, return worry free does happen with Shady Rays. So within 30 days, you can always return your shades and get a new pair. So there's no risk when you shop. They also have great prices, and that allows you to now be able to shop freely and comfortably, knowing you're getting a great pair of shades. So exclusively for our listeners today, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. You can head to shadyrays.com and use code PHLY to get 35% off your polarized sunglasses. Try them for yourselves. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Again, go to shadyrays.com, use that code PHLY, and get 35% off your polarized sunglasses. A Kevin Durant discount, just like we got a Kevin Durant toe Thursday night when you go to Shady Rays.
Yeah, let me tell you about some of our friends over at Z-Biotics because, friends, I don't know about you, but now that I'm into my 30s, I don't really bounce back the way that I used to after a night out with friends or a night on the town, especially when maybe a couple of drinks are involved. And it's almost gotten to a point where you're starting to make a decision on, do you want to have a great night or do you want to have a great next morning and next day? And that decision's a tough one because you don't want to not go enjoy your evening, but you also have to think about the activities that you're going to be doing the next day. Are you going out to breakfast with the family, or do you have to do you have a game or whatever the case may be? Maybe you have an event, and especially if you're going to go for a hike or a walk or a bike ride or whatever the case may be, you don't want to have to make the decision between a great night or a great next day. And that is where Z-Biotics pre-alcohol comes in. It is a surefire way for you to wake up feeling fresh after a night of drinking. Maybe you have a birthday coming up this weekend. and you're going to have a couple of beverages with your friends and your family, Z-Biotics pre-alcohol will help you to ensure that you don't have to choose between that birthday celebration or your Sunday morning and Sunday afternoon enjoyment as well. With the games around the corner, pro football is on all Sunday. You want to be your very best to be able to watch those games. And Z-Biotics pre-alcohol is the way to go. Pre-alcohol is the first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by people much smarter than us, PhD scientists, in fact, to tackle rough mornings the day after drinking. So here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in your gut. And it's this byproduct, not your dehydration, that's to blame for a rough next day. So pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Remember, just take your Z-Biotics pre-alcohol the night before or before your first drink of the night. You're going to drink responsibly, and you will feel your absolute best tomorrow. So go to zbiotics.com /PHLY Phillies to get 15% off your first order. That again is when you use PHLY Phillies at checkout. So whether you're having a vacation, a wedding, your birthday perhaps this weekend, a reunion, or so much more, you have a lot going on. You don't want to have to choose between a fun night and an important next morning. You get the most out of your plans by stocking up on Z-Biotics pre-alcohol right now.
All right. Well, as we are getting into the final segment of our show here on PHLY Phillies, presented by Bet365, let's get into some injury updates. Let's talk through some down on the farm, starting with some quick injury updates, because we did, of course, and are continuing to watch Bryce Harper. I know in the chat you guys are already talking about Bryce Harper and what you would do. Bryce has had some really tough stretches. He still hasn't hit a home run since August 9th. He had that stretch from July 19th to August 22nd, where he was slashing 203, 252, 374 with 12 RBIs, 5 home runs in that stretch. He has been looking like he's getting better, where he has been getting at least a hit in his last, games. His OPS has definitely improved a little bit. He's been battling through. And so for Bryce, we're seeing a slight progression. He did have a hit in 10 of his last 12 games. It's starting to look like he's trying to work out of the slump. But as we know, he's dealing with the elbow and the wrist soreness. We've seen him wincing and grimacing after pitches. We've seen him have plays where he comes up looking shaky. And everybody keeps asking Rob about it, and as well as Bryce. And they both have kind of mentioned, Rob is saying, I think he could have continued in that game when they had to pull him against Toronto if he wanted to. He was going to, talk to him and see if he needed a day or two. But whatever it takes, they just want to make sure he's okay to play. Bryce was saying how he doesn't feel like he was telling reporters, and I know Alex Coffey reported this where I saw it. He just feels like he's not sure if rest will even help. He feels like it might make it stiffen up. And I do know, unfortunately, as somebody that has dealt with my own more like ligament types of injuries, sometimes that is the case. If you don't keep that muscle active and moving, it does tighten up, stiffen up, and almost the rest can make it worse. So his nerves are around, will rest help or make it worse? The hard part is we don't know, because we haven't seen him rest. We've only seen him continue to play. So although he feels like a day or two might make it worse, and the training staff has been monitoring it, saying the same thing, that they feel like, this is what's best. He's okay. Everybody's claiming that Bryce Harper is okay, but this is obviously one of the biggest slumps and, struggling times for Bryce Harper we've seen in his career. So I don't know how long you continue this. I don't know if you tried at least a day of rest to see. You just don't know if that rest will help or hurt. But I don't know. I feel like it doesn't hurt to try, because of where right now he's not looking great anyways. Try to get him some rest, and maybe a day or two while it's still early September. I think with every time that they wait, you're now forcing you to have to keep him out there. Like, I think I would have rather him rested maybe against Toronto or even this Miami series, because it is still early September, which gives you time when you come back after resting for a couple days to get back into that groove for October.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because you can tell he's not 100% healthy and there is something going on, but the numbers have been pretty darn good over the last 3 weeks or so. Let's say the last 2 weeks or so. Since August 22nd, hits in every game except 3. Now, you could say the September 4th game, but he didn't have an official at bat. He had the one plate appearance. He gets hit. he comes out of the game later. But yesterday was just his third game since August 22nd in which he didn't pick up a base hit after going 0 for 3 with a walk yesterday. A hit in the final game against Atlanta in Atlanta. He had a 7-hit series against Kansas City. He ended up with a let's see here. He ended up with a 5-hit series against Houston. He had a 4-hit series, a 5-hit series against the Braves the second time through. Like, his numbers are still good despite the fact that he's banged up. So I think at this point, he's 8 for his last 23. He's got 17 hits in his last 15 games. The strikeout numbers are a little bit high. He struck out 25 times in the last 30 games. But I think at this point, he is basically telling you, as long as my productivity doesn't slip, I'm not missing time. And it's going to be on Bryce Harper to make that decision. Rob Thompson could say, hey, dude, we need you to, let's think about the long haul and, maybe sit yourself down for a couple days. Or the medical staff could say something. But if Bryce Harper continues to play well like he has over the last 30 days, I don't think anything's going to change in terms of him missing any time. He wants to be out on the field. The Phillies want him on the field. And even if he is, grimacing in pain when he's swinging and missing, which, he was saying something, it's a swing and miss thing. It's not going to get any worse. The doctor,
just don't miss.
I think that he is going to continue to be trotted out there most games until at least you get to a point where you've either won the division, you've locked up a bye, whatever the case may be. His power's been sapped a little bit, but he's hitting the ball well. He's hitting 318 over the last, 315 over the last 15 games. I don't think there's a scenario right now unless A, something gets medically worse, or B, his numbers fall off a cliff. I don't think there's a scenario right now where Bryce Harper misses any time.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, now his numbers are progressing in the right direction. It was that time, late July into August, that he was really in a slump, that he probably could have and should have used some time to rest. Then at this point, he is moving in the right direction. As you guys were mentioning in the chat, the power hasn't been there. The swing and miss is causing a problem. So Rob was like, just don't miss. But on the other side, Alec Bohm is another one who we still, since that August 29th game against the Braves, left with that left-hand discomfort, is still working through it. And unfortunately, his hand isn't progressing as quickly as hoped. We've been seeing him out for the lineup. Again, 6 straight games now since he didn't play also yesterday, Thursday. And the Phillies are still hoping that he can return by the end of the 4-game series. They do not want to put him on the IL. They are hoping that he's able to get back by the end of this weekend. So, that's one of the things that's we're keeping an eye on as well. He did do some defensive work pregame Thursday, did have the dry swings in the batting cage as well that he was set to take. And for him, they're saying, they just want to get him to a point where he starts rolling over his hand and he can't, he's not feeling the pain or anything. So it is feeling a little bit better. He's just going to continue to have, bullpen and cage work and different things like that, as Rob was mentioning, to see if he can get back this weekend. So we're just keeping an eye on Alec Bohm, because right now, as we talk about, you're into the final stretch of the regular season. It's now 22 games remaining. They should go on and be able to win this series for their 25th series of the season. And with that, we are also getting some changes in who is getting called up. Oh, for Spencer Turnbull also, he's still working through throwing bullpens, they're hopeful he can be back this season as a bullpen arm. So looking at some other adjustments that are being made because of injuries, the Phillies have been reported that they're going to be calling up Seth Johnson. So let's head down on the farm really quickly and talk through some quick updates, because Seth Johnson, who we saw the Phillies pick up in the trade at the trade deadline with the Baltimore Orioles, they picked up Seth Johnson. They picked up Moises Chase. Both have been doing really well. Seth Johnson specifically has been on the rise. 25 years old, a former first-round pick. And so far this season, he's had a 3.52 ERA across his starts with AA Reading. He was then promoted to AAA Lehigh Valley. And then with AAA, since then, he's been fantastic. He was dominant in 3 outings with a .56 ERA. And overall, in his time between Baltimore and now Philly, he's had a 2.33 ERA in his 88 2/3 innings pitched. And Johnson is somebody that, as a right-handed pitcher, is going to get the nod this Sunday to be the starter. He's hey, why not? He's someone that they brought in with high expectations. And with the Phillies looking to still round out that fifth starter, Tyler Phillips, of course, has been sent down. Has not been good as a fifth starter. I don't mind that Seth gets the opportunity to see what he can do.
Yeah, I'm excited for this guy. I think that the two players you've acquired for Gregory Soto, early returns are really strong. Between Seth Johnson now making his major league debut, we talked about this at the trade deadline, that this guy could be a potential, September call-up type of guy. We talked about it more along the lines of an injury issue. It turns out it's a fifth starter issue. Tyler Phillips clearly doesn't have it. Kolby Allard's not able to return until the 10th. I'm really excited for what this guy can do. And then you talk about Moises Chassi, who we'll talk about in a minute. The early returns for these two guys are really positive. Johnson is a little bit older. He's 25, so it's not like he's, going to be, worried about the moment. Obviously you're making your MLB debut. It's nerve-wracking and whatnot. But he's been around a little bit longer. Good fastball, good slider, 4-pitch pitcher. Control is pretty strong. It's taken him a little bit longer than I think he would have liked to make his major league debut. But he's going to do it at 25 against a team that I think this is a favorable matchup for a young kid making a debut. I'm really excited to see what Seth Johnson is going to be able to do on Sunday, because I think that they have long-term plans for this guy, and I don't think they include making the major league roster out of camp next year. Yeah. But I think they do include having him as a significant depth piece for the rotation moving forward.
Yeah. Did the Phillies get a steal with Seth Johnson and Moises Chassi? I know you guys, Lawrence, Stephen Garrison, you're talking about in the chat. We'll see this Sunday. Of course, we do know if Johnson does not pan out well in his debut and his major league debut, that they do have Kolby Allard, who will be eligible to return for that next start. September 10th, he's eligible. So you have options there. It's either you can continue to ride with Seth Johnson, or you can always call Kolby Allard to be back in that fifth starting position. So even that's encouraging. Moises Chassi, another one, he was named Eastern League Pitcher of the Week. He struck out a career high 13 in a win. Chassi has also been really impressive so far, and he's had, as in addition to that, 13 strikeouts, was able to go 6 innings. He's been fantastic. He had a 10 strikeout performance as well. So Chassi has been another one that's been really good to watch, because he just continues, it seems like, to improve and be nearly flawless, is what reports are saying. He's retired in one game. He retired 18 of 19 hitters pitched, including the last 16 in a row. And out of those 19 hitters, 13 were strikeouts, 72% of his outs via strikeouts, 19 swings and misses. He's been stellar. He's been fantastic. 21 years old and is 2-0 with a 1.72 ERA in his 3 starts in 15 2/3 innings pitched, giving up 7 hits, walked 5, and struck out 29. His whip, a .77, and his opponents are batting just 1.137 against him. He's also been a huge bright spot, which led him to Eastern Player of the Week.
Yeah, nearly 2 strikeouts per inning pitched, right? You talk about 29 strikeouts over the course of 3 games, which is, he's pitched 15 2/3 innings with 29 strikeouts, is just about unbelievable. And what's even kind of funnier is he's made 3 appearances or 3 starts in Reading, and his numbers in Reading in Double-A were actually better than his numbers were in his 2 appearances in High A in Jersey Shore. He had a 4.1 ERA across 2 starts, small sample size, of course, but he gave up 4 runs over 8 2/3 innings and had a 1-0, basically a 1-0 flat whip. He was striking out a lot of guys still, 13 strikeouts in 8 innings. But he moves up to Double-A in his 3 starts so far. He's giving up less earned runs, one less earned run in 15 2/3 innings pitched than he did in Double-A in 8 2/3. Really good stuff. Electric fastball. Strikeout numbers are clearly there. This could be one of those guys that's a quick riser through the ranks of the farm system. With Seth Johnson, I'm not entirely stunned that Baltimore was willing to move on from him, an older prospect, kind of maybe somebody that maybe profiles as a quad A type of player. Chassi was a little bit interesting for me to see that they were willing to move on from a guy that, especially who he was given, who they got in or gave up in return, or who Baltimore got in return in Gregory Soto, a guy with good stuff, but, rough command, struggled at times at points this year, wanted a larger role, got a larger role, stunk in the larger role. Kind of interesting to me that Baltimore was willing to make that move. Johnson made sense. Chase was a little more questionable in that regard.
Yeah, two exciting acquisitions we can keep an eye on. And for the Phillies, it feels like they may have won that trade, and hopefully they can win again tonight. This weekend's a great 4-game series, and a good chance to see Johnson close that out on Sunday. And so for all of our friends tuning in, especially our diehards on Roku, we appreciate you guys for tuning in to another edition of PHLY Phillies. As we're talking through the pitching matchup and all that we're looking forward to this weekend, it should be a great one. Now, I do want to be very clear, in addition to the guys that the Phillies have picked up, they've also had some other guys that have been extremely talented in the pipeline. Yes, we can talk about Moises Chase and Seth Johnson, but also there have been some others. And we got to highlight Aiden Miller as well, because he's been fantastic in how he's been looking for the Phillies. Now, the Phillies overall have been having some positive prospects making moves. Aiden Miller is one of them. You want to talk about power? He has got it, and that much more. We, of course, had a chance to speak with him during spring training. And now I got a little, it was cute because I had a chance as I was reading Alex Coffey talking her piece about Aiden Miller, talking about his buddy George Klassen. He does say he misses him and how they text every day, and it's tough to watch their games, but they do keep in touch with like box scores and everything. But if you look at the box scores for Aiden Miller, he had an 0-for-5 performance in the final game of August. But in September, he's been lights out. He's been the number 28 prospects for Major League Baseball for a reason. Had a career 5 knocks for High A Jersey Shore on Sunday. They did lose that game 6-2. But Miller also was then promoted to AA Reading, and he's recorded 41 hits in 39 games for Single A Clearwater, which helped him move up. And then also for Miller, his numbers have been impressive, hitting .299 with a .906 OPS in August, and then a .258, 353, 444 in 58 games to kick off the start of September. And so Aiden Miller, who gives you some power, he has 19 runs, 52 total bases, 3 triples, 29 hits. He gives you a little bit of everything. His slugging percentage, a .536. His OPS, a .906. He was 4th in RBIs and 5th in doubles across the league. So he's been someone that we've been keeping an eye on, just 20 years old and a first-round pick by the Phillies back in 2023, and has been someone that we talk about for the future of the Phillies as could be a really great piece. He's played third base. He's played shortstop. He's got versatility, but he's also got power.
Yeah, we've talked about this kid basically every time we've done it down on the Farm Report, but rightfully so. Now, like you said, he's inside the top 30 across Major League Baseball, and I'm just looking at some of the guys that are ahead of him. And there's probably, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 guys that I would expect within the next calendar year or less to graduate out of the prospect list. Junior Caminero, Dylan Cruz are the top 2. They're both in Major League Baseball now. They're going to get out soon. Kobe Mayo's in the top 10. He's the same way. Brooks Lee with the Twins. Jacob Wilson with the A's. Jason Dominguez, if the Yankees ever decide to get their act together and just promote the kid because he deserves it. But Aiden Miller very likely could be a top 20 prospect by the time the season starts next year. The likelihood, my guess would be, he is going to finish the year in AA. Not much time left in AA. He's going to finish the year yet there. I would expect him to get a spring training invite to get some opportunities with the big club in spring training. My guess would be he probably starts the year again in AA just to get a couple more at bats. But I would think if he forces the Phillies' hand out of spring training, there is, it's not out the realm of possibility that he's with Lehigh Valley very, very quickly next year. He's going to be 21 next year. He's risen the ranks really quickly. He's answered the bell every single time. He's moved up through the ranks. There's no doubt in my mind that I see him with Lehigh Valley at the end of by the end of next year, and he's probably a Philly sometime in 2025.
Yeah, and another guy, as you guys are talking through in the chat about Crawford, there was a report that was put out by Minor League Baseball of the top 10 outfields, the top 10 outfield prospects and farm systems, I should say. The Phillies are actually number 6 as having being a part of one of the best outfield groups across the minor league system. And the reason why is because they're saying they have the most depth in their top 30 on the list. They've got 9 outfielders that are in that ranking. led by Justin Crawford, who has been having an incredible season. We've seen his center field play, the speed, the pop, the explosiveness, I should say, from him. He's also adding more offensively as well. He's been great. And he did reach AA this season. He's another one that's very young, just 20 years old. And so with him, along with the talent that was drafted, Dante Nori, Griffin Burkholder, that put the Phillies in top 10. So there's also some encouraging areas that we're seeing for the future of the Phillies in terms of their outfield. But also, bright news, guys, we got an update on pitching because Andrew Painter is another one we are keeping an eye on. Now, of course, Andrew Painter, they've been saying they're slow walking him from his Tommy John surgery. Well, Rob Thompson did tell reporters that the next step for Andrew Painter is to throw another live bullpen session this Saturday, September 7th, my birthday. He's going to throw a bullpen session, and he'll continue to throw.
Really? I had no idea. Oh my gosh, you should have
gotten that.
Oh no, I forgot.
He's going to continue throwing a bullpen session every 3 days for the time being, if all goes well. He reportedly was sitting around 97 and 98 miles per hour with his fastball. He did reach as high as 99 in a 15-pitch live batting practice session that he had in Clearwater. So they are ramping things up. He also threw to batters for the first time. He's slowly working back. So it's great to see that he is getting on a routine of being able to throw every few days. And so the future for the Phillies, it's very encouraging to see all of these great players that are in the pipeline for as we're looking ahead to even next season.
Yeah, I don't expect Painter to be on the major league roster next year. I think they're really going to allow him to grow and develop in the minor leagues. But there's no reason why he's not a major league pitcher by 2025.
Yeah, absolutely.
2026. Sorry, 2026.
Yeah, I know, math. I got it. I was picking up on what you're putting down. Yes, definitely. And he could be someone, depending on how.
About Miller too. I meant 2026.
Yeah, depending on how the season goes, maybe he gets slotted in for some of an early debut, but maybe not a consistent pitcher in 2025. We will see. That being said, this weekend we will see a great opportunity for some more pitching to round out for the Phillies to hopefully continue to show that consistency. Here is the pitching matchup for the weekend. We kick things off today. It is Zach Wheeler going up against Edward Cabrera. Zach Wheeler with a 2.63 ERA on the season is 13-6, going up against Cabrera at a 5.33 ERA. He's 3-6 on the season. First pitch tonight scheduled for 7:10. Then we've got after that, as we roll through the remainder of the weekend, it's going to be Aaron Nola going up against Darren McCauthen. I don't know how to. Sorry, Darren. Last name. He has an 8.24 ERA, whereas Aaron Nola has a nice 3.29 ERA and is 12-6. Darren is also 0-0 on the season. And then making his major league debut on Sunday, it is Seth Johnson. Of course, no major league stats as of yet, but that will change Sunday. Going up against Eminem, Max Meyer, of course. 5.68 ERA, 3-5 on the season. So that is our three matchups to close out this 4-game series against the Miami Marlins. And as we close out the show here, should be a good chance for the Phillies to get another series win. Would I love a sweep? Oh, absolutely. Because we saw them get their first sweep in quite some time. That sweep against Toronto was the first since they swept the Dodgers back July 9th through 11th. So it'd be great if they could get another sweep, get their 12th sweep of the season. But either way, this should be a chance for them to get series victory number 25. And as we keep talking about, they've been winning more series lately. They've been winning more games lately. They're sitting in a good spot in the NL where they are now tied with the Dodgers for standings. But because of the tiebreaker of having won this season series, they would get the edge. So they're back to being the top team in the National League. Exciting times. Go out, win this series, make it a nice, smooth, easy, positive weekend. I don't know who's going to be the breakout star offensively. We've seen Kyle. We've seen Bryson. Who knows who it'll be this weekend. But Tyler, I'm optimistic for what this weekend will bring. I'm sure you are as well because it should be a good one. Last thoughts for you?
I think you should be. There's no reason to not take two of the last three and win this series, 3-1. Put a lot of pressure, more pressure on the Braves, who lost to the Colorado Rockies last night.
Yes.
Big Rockies fan yesterday. I believe the Braves, who do they have this weekend? Oh, they've got Toronto this weekend. So probably not going to get a ton of help there. Toronto's really scuffling. But you take care of your own business. If you win 2 out of 3, you chop off another 2 off that magic number. You get closer and closer to winning the division. And then the next goal, of course, becomes securing a bye.
Absolutely. Exciting times because the Phillies control their own destiny with 84 wins on the season. They are now sitting 8 games ahead of the Mets and the Braves, who are tied in the NL East, but also tied for that third wild card spot. So around the league, we're keeping an eye. We're doing some playoff prediction, playoff picture watching, but most importantly, Phillies, top team in the National League, control their own destiny, have a chance to continue to stay at the top throughout the remainder of this season. So that'll do it for us here on PHLY Phillies podcast presented by Bet365. Tyler, Zulli, myself, Renee watching. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in on this Friday. It's been a good week for the Phillies. Let's hope that continues into the weekend. Have a tremendous weekend, guys. And we'll be back on Monday live, 11 a.m. to recap it all with you as we look ahead to the next stretch of the season. Are we alive? Nope. We are post-game on Monday. My bad.
I don't know.
September 9th. We are post-game. Yes.
I'm making our schedule up at this point.
I like low-key have our schedule memorized. Apparently I got it wrong on that one though. We are going to be post-game on Monday. So we'll be back after the game against the Tampa Bay Rays that will be going live. So we will see you then. Eagles tonight, closing out the 4-game series, my birthday, the Penn State game, all the great things happening this weekend. And we'll see you back Monday post-game to recap it all. Have a good one.
We all silly like the mayor.